surprised how many people don't want him coming back. I don't know what the percentage is. Let's say 30% of Cowboy fans. What do you think? Over, under 30% of Cowboy fans say, I do not want Kellen Moore back as the offensive coordinator.
I think it's over.
If I said 50%.
I think it's under that.
Okay,
I think it's somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and I do think he's somewhat learning on the job. I do think he's going to be an offensive coordinator for a long time in the NFL. I don't know how long it will be for the Dallas Cowboys. I think as long as Jerry wants him here, he's the offensive coordinator. I don't know if he'll become the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm okay with him coming back. I'm not like excited, like, yes, but I'm also not to the point where I think 30 to 50% of Cowboy fans are with like, he's horrible, he's never going to be good, he's a Scott Linehan clone or a Jason Garrett clone or somewhere in between. So I just think that he needs help. The weird thing is Mike McCarthy, supposedly the offensive genius we hired as the head coach, refuses to help Kellen Moore if there are struggles, because he says he didn't want help when he was an offensive coordinator from the head coach, so he's not going to give help as the head coach to an offensive coordinator.
Sounds like Brett Favre when Aaron Rodgers was drafted. I'm not going to teach Joe Flacco. I'm not going to teach that guy anything. He's going to take my job, especially when your freaking owner is sitting there going, yeah, Mike knows that someday somebody other than him will coach the Cowboys. All the coaches I have on staff want to be the head coach of the Cowboys, and Mike understands that, and he knows. Yeah, Mike doesn't want to teach anybody anything. He's like, you can learn on your own damn time. Not mine. We got to win a Super Bowl here.
Okay, somebody immediately texted in and said, but it's not the number one offense. It's just because you had those 2 games of 50-plus. All right.
You are, listen, dude, you were right there saying the Mavericks' offensive efficiency was a fraudulent stat.
Absolutely, which has been proven out to be true.
Is the Cowboys' offensive productivity, is it fraudulent?
So the interesting thing about that question, and this is where I have a tough time figuring it out, is because, all right, very fair. You scored 56 and 51 against 2 scrub teams, even though people are like, well, one of them made the playoffs. All right, but it was a scrub team that day. Okay, so I factored those games out. Even if you factor those games out, I ran the numbers, the Cowboys offense would have been 3rd in the league, behind the Bucs, the Bills, and tied with the Chiefs. At some point, and that's where I don't know how to. I really am telling you, I know we're supposed to be like, this is this is that. I'm sitting here telling you, the Cowboys had the number 1 offense in the league, and people are like, well, it's because they played in a trash division. All right, well, we established they played in the 5th or 6th division in the NFL. Like, we did that a couple of weeks ago. All right, well, it's because they have those 2 huge games. Fine. Factored out those 2 games, they're still 3rd in the NFL. And people think their quarterback stinks or is mediocre, and people think their OC stinks or is mediocre. And people hate the running back. They think our offensive line is bad. At some point, I need to know how we got here then. Because I get that there are problems on this team. I just don't entirely know how we got here then.
So I think, my opinion, and I think other Cowboy fans would agree with this, and not all, but how did we get to this? Well, Dak Prescott really has not been a quarterback under Kellen Moore's system, because the year before, when it was the first year together, they were getting destroyed by 20 points at halftime almost every game.
And I got to do whatever
and
the hell
so
they
it was
wanted.
just like, hurry up and get a whole bunch of yards. And it was like, man, he's going to have 6,000 yards if he stays healthy. Yeah, and we're going to go 4-12 too.
Yeah.
But so this was a year where Dak comes back. Kellen Moore is a somewhat new offensive coordinator without a lot of defensive coordinators knowing exactly maybe how he wants to attack, where he wants to attack. And because of that, I think they took advantage the first half of the season. Now, usually talking to people that have played the game like Jesse Hawley would say, that's why Dak struggled so much in year 2 and somewhat in year 3 is after teams had a whole bunch of information on him and could take an off season to prepare for what he did well, try to take those things away and make him work towards his weaknesses. That's why Dak struggled so much in 2017. And I'm just wondering, did it just happen a lot quicker for Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator? Is that defenses discovered, especially Denver, put out a system, it worked, and then teams started copying somewhat that system, and there was nothing that Kellen Moore, for some reason, and Dak Prescott could do to really affect their offensive efficiency, except play really bad teams, put up really great numbers against bad teams in the second half to keep those numbers way high. Because the first half was real.
Yeah.
The first, 7 to 8 games until Dak got hurt after the New England game.
Yep.
And then you had to go to Cooper Rush, which unbelievable job by Cooper Rush 1, Kellen Moore 2, and I would say Mike McCarthy 3 in figuring out how to win a game with a guy that I don't really think is a backup in the NFL. I hate saying that about Cooper Rush. I think he's more of a third string guy on a team than a real backup, but they won a game. They figured out. But from that point on, the Denver game, then Oakland, and Las Vegas, the Las Vegas game's a bunch of, to me, a little bit of fake stats in that you had a huge comeback in the end where a team doesn't play what you'd call their real defense, and you just destroy those numbers. You're playing hurry up. You get it to overtime. You still lose. But that's where I would say they racked up the real numbers is first half. Those were real numbers. Second half, the teams figured them out, and they could never really get it going against teams that were decent or good.
I mean, look at the Chiefs and the Bengals in the second half of that game. And the Chiefs struggled all season long early on in the season trying to figure out, oh, crap, they're not letting Tyreek downfield, and they're not letting Travis Kelce get deep into the routes either. They're taking the things that we like to do away very well. And then once the Chiefs said, well, you know what, we're going to stop doing then. We're going to stop trying to go there and use that as a setup. Like Mike, you use your fastball as a setup for this, and you use your changeup as a setup for that. They said, we're not going to try and set people up for the big play anymore because they're just saying, F it, we're not going to let you have a big play. You have to drive 80 yards down the field to get a touchdown. And that's what they did to the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, their biggest problem was everything underneath that they tried to develop. Their running back couldn't catch the football. He couldn't run the football either. When teams are trying to keep you from going deep, which that's essentially what was happening, then Kellen Moore had no other card to go to that he knew he could play. And I don't know if he has the experience enough to make that adjustment. And if he needs to sit back this offseason and say, all right, if this is going to happen, what is our plan? And he should be asking Mike McCarthy that. He should be going to the head coach and saying, I got to figure out this plan for next time, and I need to implement it with my quarterback immediately because we had great routes. We have great talent, but we got to be able to get them all into the right space whenever defenses are making us adjust.